Hi, hello, and welcome. Hope you're all doing well. If you aren't new here, my name is Claudia, and I'm in Canada, and our Thanksgiving is in 2 weeks. So I'm prepping for Thanksgiving, and I don't know if it's the same at your place, but here, pumpkin pie is king. I have to make pumpkin pie every year, and I do try to make other pumpkin desserts, and they never go over well. But I think this year I cracked the code by combining 2 of our favorites into one, the pumpkin pie and the Pastel de Nata, with a shortbread crust and the creaminess of the Pastel de Nata, but the taste of the pumpkin pie, it just comes together so perfect. It's just a perfect fall dessert, and I highly recommend you trying it for your Thanksgiving. So let's get into it. Bora cozinhar. So I'm either going to be really loved or really hated by messing with our beloved Pastel de Nata. For this recipe, with 2 different components, we're going to make the shortbread crust, and then we're going to make the Pastel de Nata pumpkin filling. I'm not quite sure what we're calling it yet. Maybe a pumpkin nata tart or a pumpkin custard tart. Not sure. We'll see. So for the crust, we're gonna need flour, sugar, egg, butter, and a little pinch of salt. And for the custard, the pumpkin custard filling, we're gonna need milk, heavy cream, whipping cream, cornstarch, and our pumpkin pie spices. We're gonna need salt, cinnamon, ginger, nutmeg, allspice, and ground cloves. Eggs, and of course, a bit of pumpkin. If you've never made pie crust or tart crust before, don't be intimidated. This comes together very easy and quickly. For our tart, I'm using a 10-inch tart pan with the removable bottom. So we're gonna need that later on. And the importance is that our butter needs to be extremely soft. I left it out the night before. We're also gonna need sugar, flour, and egg at room temperature as well, and a pinch of salt. I'm just using a bowl and a whisk to bring this together. So in our bowl, we're gonna put our very soft butter. See, I just want you to tell, like, it's really soft. Not melting, but soft. So just put the butter out the night before, and we're gonna add our just granulated sugar, and we're going to whisk it up until, I know it looks like it's not gonna come together, but trust me, it is. We're gonna whisk it up until it's nice and creamy, until the sugar starts dissolving into the butter and it becomes a creamy texture. You can also use your handheld mixer for this. I just prefer to do it by hand. So now you can tell it's a nice creamy consistency. We're gonna add in the egg. And as always break your egg into a different bowl and then add in. We're gonna also add in a pinch of salt, just a small pinch. And our flour. Okay, so I'm gonna use my hand now. Just wanna get everything out of here to bring this dough together now. So you're gonna knead it for a little bit until it starts coming together. And this is a soft dough because of all the butter. So it is sticky. And after we bring the dough together, the dough needs to chill for 2 hours. So I just want you to remember that. That is really important. So now we're just folding the dough into itself, bringing everything together. And no worries. I know that it looks really sticky right now, but once we chill it, it will be perfect for our tart, because this is like a shortbread. You can already tell it's coming together. It is not a fussy dough. It is just sticky because it just has a lot of butter in it. Okay, so now I'm going to get some saran wrap. See, the dough came together nicely. I'm going to put out some saran wrap. And we're gonna put the dough on top of the saran wrap, like so, just in the middle, and give it, and we're gonna fold it over like this, sort of like a little envelope for our tart, for our dough. You can also use parchment paper, but I like using saran wrap. And now with our rolling pin, we're going to roll out, I like to roll it out in the size of the pie tart pan. So we're gonna roll it out, which is gonna make our life a little bit easier once we need to put it in the tart pan. I like rolling out the size of my tart pan. I'm just gonna roll it out a bit more. Okay, now we're gonna close this up. And transfer it like this to the tart pan. Okay, so now we have it in our tart pan. We're gonna put it in the fridge for 2 hours for it to chill. This is a very important part of the recipe. Do not chill the dough for less than 2 hours. You can actually make the dough a day ahead, put it in the fridge, and then pull it out the next day and proceed with the recipe. So let's put this in the fridge. So while we wait for our tart dough to chill, we can start on our custard filling. For that, we're just gonna need a whisk and a bowl. We're also gonna need a small saucepan and a sieve. So let's do it. First, we wanna combine the sugar and the eggs. For the eggs, we're gonna need 2 whole eggs. Oops, I'm gonna break that in here first. Always break your eggs first into a bowl. So 2 eggs and then 4 egg yolks. And you want the eggs at room temperature. So let's give that a whisk and combine the 2. So to that, we're also going to add our cornstarch, and we wanna sift it through so we get no lumps. And the cornstarch is what's going to thicken our custard. Stir that in. So we're combining until it's nice and smooth, like so. In our saucepan, we're gonna combine the milk, the cream, the spices, and the pumpkin. We're gonna mix that all up and bring it to a simmer on the stove. Okay, so now we're just bringing the milk to a simmer. We're just warming it up, and then we're going to temper the eggs. So we don't wanna bring it to a boil, we just wanna heat it up. Okay, so now we're ready to temper our eggs. And what that means is, let's just give this a whisk. The cornstarch is at the bottom. We're gonna slowly add our liquid and stir at the same time. We don't want to cook our eggs. We're just gonna slowly bring them up to temperature. I find the easiest way to do that is with a ladle. Okay, we can now add the rest of the eggs to the milk mixture. And now we're gonna return it back to the stove. So now we wanna just keep stirring it until it starts to thicken, and it's already starting to thicken, as you can tell. Just make sure you're getting into the corners. Bring it over here so you can see better. And we're looking for it to start to really thicken up, and you're going to start seeing some big bubbles come up. And once we start seeing those big bubbles, we know that it's ready. So you can see the bubbles coming up now. We know our custard is ready. There we are. So we're done with the custard. I'll turn off the heat. So we've pulled our custard off the stove, and now we're going to transfer it to our bowl, and we're going to use a sieve to make sure that it's a very creamy custard. So we won't need this anymore. So let's do that. As you can see, it's already pretty creamy, but running it through the sieve is just gonna ensure that it's extra creamy. All right, so now we're going to cover our custard with saran wrap because we don't want it to form a film. And we need it to come to room temperature. And that's also gonna be around the time that our tart dough is gonna be ready. So you just want to bring the saran wrap right onto the custard, and we're going to let it sit at room temperature and wait until our tart dough is ready. So it's actually 24 hours later because I felt really sick, so I couldn't continue the recipe. So here we are, 24 hours later. I put everything in the fridge. Our tart dough is supposed to chill for at least 2 hours. So it's been chilling for 24 hours. And our custard was just supposed to come down to room temperature. So I took it out about an hour ago, and it's almost at room temperature. So now we're gonna prep our tart, and we're gonna roll it out in order to fit into our tart pan. So I'm going to take it out of the saran wrap. Like so. And I'm just gonna roll it out a bit more. And we want to work fast because this dough, because it has a lot of butter, it's going to start melting. Not melting, but getting really soft. So we're just going to roll it out a bit thinner. And I just like reposition my saran wrap and then use that. to roll it. And because we rolled it out yesterday, before we put it in the fridge, it just makes it today a lot easier to roll it out thinner, instead of leaving it like in a square and then having to roll it out. I find this method a lot easier. So you pre-roll it out before you put it in the fridge, and then 2 hours later, it just makes it a lot easier. So we just need enough to put it up on the sides. So just let's do it a little bit more. And plus we don't want a very thick crust. See, here I just didn't have the saran wrap, and that's what happens. So the saran wrap just makes it easier to roll out. See that? But it's a very forgiving dough, where you saw I just had a little hole there and just was able to patch it up. Okay, so that should be enough. So now we're gonna transfer it to the the tart pan, and because this dough has so much butter in it, we do not need to grease the tart pan. So just place it in the middle, and I like to pick it up like so and just transfer it over, and then you just help it in. And no worries if you get a hole in it, because it is very easy to patch up. But as you can see, like what I was saying, you've got to work fast because of all the butter in it. It does tend to lose its shape and become sticky. And that's why we chill it for 2 hours before we bake it. We're going to just patch up the corners where we need to. Here we have a hole, we can just patch that up. So we're just patching up the sides. Now we're just gonna take the back of our knife and just take out the remaining dough that's on the sides. We just scrape it off like that. It should come right off. Patching up any holes. And now I'm gonna take the fork and just prick the tart pan, like the tart dough at the bottom, like just prick it all over. So now we're gonna cover it and put it back in the freezer while we preheat our oven at 400. With the remaining dough, I wanted to do some cutouts, so I think I'm going to, because it's really soft, I'm gonna just roll it out a little bit, because I want to use some cookie cutters. So I'm just gonna roll it out a little bit, put it back in the fridge, so then I can cut out some cookies. We'll see, we'll see. So I've chilled the dough for about 15 minutes, and now I'm gonna cut out, I don't know how this is gonna go, so we'll just see. I'm gonna cut out a few little shapes to then decorate the pie with. Because last time I just rolled these into shortbread cookies, like little rounds, and everyone was loving them. So I thought it'd be cute to cut out little leaves and to decorate the tart with. How cute is that? And while I wait for the oven to warm up, I'm gonna stick these back in the fridge. So our oven is hot and our tart has been chilling for 15 minutes in the freezer. I also put the cookies back in the freezer for a bit. And now it's time to fill our tart with the filling. We're just gonna give it a quick whisk because it's been sitting here. So we're just gonna whisk up the custard. And it is nice and creamy. Let me show you. We have a beautiful creamy custard that we made yesterday. But if this was the day of, so you chill the tart for 2 hours in the fridge, then you roll it out, then you bring it out and you heat up your oven, and then it goes back in the freezer for 15 minutes. The custard filling just sits on your counter and comes to room temperature, and then you fill your tart pan. You can tell how velvety smooth our custard is. And we gotta work fast because this tart dough, because it has so much butter in it, it does get soft quickly. So it is important to chill it. All these steps, like you chill for the 2 hours and then you put it in the freezer for 15 minutes or the fridge for half hour while you heat up the oven. And we're just gonna smooth out our custard. And I like baking in a cookie tray just for insurance, and also to help that the bottom doesn't brown too much. And I have the cookies that I cut out on the same cookie sheet. Our tart now goes in the oven for 30 to 35 minutes. After that time, we're gonna broil it to get the top nice and caramelized, like the Pastel de Nata. The cookies, I'm gonna check in on them after 8 minutes, so let's go do that now. So I had them in there for 8 minutes. And here we have our little cookies to decorate our tart with. These ones were a little thinner, so I guess they needed a little less. And last time I just did little shortbreads like this, and I even ended up forgetting them, and the family still decided to eat them even though they were all burned. Like, they were darker than this one. They were black at the bottom and they still ate them. So here we have our little cookies. So the time is up. It's been 35 minutes, but because my oven only has a heat source from the bottom and I want to give it that Pastel de Nata look with the blistering black top, I'm going to broil it for 3 to 5 minutes. So once you start to broil it, after the 3-minute mark, it starts to get dark pretty quick. So really keep an eye on it, don't turn your back. And here we have it. Now comes the difficult part of the recipe. We're gonna let it cool for about an hour. Then you can remove the tart out of the pan. And ideally, it should chill for about 4 hours or overnight. Now let's taste our tart. As you can see, like, the crust is it's not soggy at all, and it's nicely toasted. And now let's have a taste of our tart. The texture is just like a Pastel de Nata, and the taste is just like pumpkin pie. It's the perfect match. I hope that you give it a try. I highly suggest it. It was very successful here at home. Everyone loved it. and I suggest you making it. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you make it, and see you again soon. Thank you for watching.